You're listening to the Home Staging Show podcast. I'm your host, Cindy Lin. This is the show where we talk about all things real estate, home staging, and selling a home to live and to sell. Welcome back to season 6. This is episode 10. Our show is brought to you by our in-house product, EcoJo, the eco-friendly St. Joseph statue home selling kit. In real estate, there's a tradition to bury St. Joseph statues for good luck. But because the existing products on the market were made with plastic, we made an eco-friendly one named EcoJo. He's all natural, won't harm the earth. We're currently having a 50% off sale. For more information, you can go to ecojokits.com. ECOJOEKITS.com. This podcast is also brought to you by our Cash and the Cushions business courses for home stagers. If you're thinking about getting into the home staging industry and not sure where to start, our Launcher program is designed for just that. It's designed for those who are thinking about venturing into the home staging industry and wants to get an overview of the industry. This 90-page workbook clarifies frequently asked questions about starting a home staging business. It also helps you navigate the waters of the marketplace so you can avoid the common slip-ups. The course also includes 2 bonus classes. One video class shows you what happens on a home staging consultation, and the other shows how I approach the vacant home staging projects. Our signature course, the 6-figure floor plan, is designed to be a business in a box, where I help you to take all the kinks and guesswork out of building a successful and profitable home staging business. It's a bit like a business incubator. We're going to have 1 module per week for 6 weeks. You're also going to have opportunities to ask questions and get support in our weekly office hours and private community as well. You can also upgrade the program by adding on a coaching package where you'll have additional support for your business after our course finishes. In this jam-packed online course, we're going to go over systems, contracts, pricing, proposals, inventory, marketing, technology, and everything you'll need to start getting clients. I'm going to show you the behind the scenes of how I built my home staging business from the ground up, including worksheets, systems, scripts, and workflow that I've developed to build a book-solid home staging business. You're also going to be able to see my pricing proposal, contracts, and basically every template I've ever created and used in my 6-figure home staging business. The course enrollment is now closed, but you can get on the waitlist and find out more information about the course by going on our website at stagemore.com/6-figure floor plan. It's spelled stagemore.com, STAGEMORE.com/6-figure-floor-plan. Hey guys, welcome back to season 6, episode 10. On the last episode of this season, I have one of our 30-day home staging challengers and home seller Agnes on the show. She's absolutely amazing. She has shared so many amazing before and after photos with us today in the show notes, all done by her on her own. And during our show, she's going to tell you that no one had believed her that home staging will work. She had a really nice house and she shouldn't be wasting more time on staging. And I cannot tell you how incredible it is for me to personally interview sellers like Agnes and also Lisa from the last episode. I was so blown away by both of these women and how determined they were to get their homes staged and ready for sale. Both of them had very limited budget. They didn't have immediate access to home stagers in their area, so they did a lot of homework and research online. And they both did our 30-day home staging challenge. They put in a lot of effort to get their homes ready for sale. Both of their homes are just going on the market now, and I'll keep you posted on their progress in our later season. Agnes especially has a very difficult reason as to why they had decided to sell their dream home, where they have put in a lot of custom upgrades. It's on a beautiful property. They have put in a lot of work into it. Her hard work really had paid off, as you can see from the before and after photos on the show notes. And I hope you enjoy both of these episodes and hear these seller stories and experiences and advice on what to and not to do when you're putting your home on the market. If you're curious about our 30-day home staging challenge online course, you can go to our website at stagemore.com/30-day home staging. I also put a link in the show notes for you to check it out. So that's it for the introduction today, and let's start the show.
This is the first time that I'm selling my house. We haven't actually put it on the market just yet. We're at that final stage. We're actually going to have our real estate agent come over this evening. We're going to talk about pricing and everything, and we'll go from there. But my husband has been in the real estate market and just home everything market his whole life. Our agent is actually my father-in-law, and he's a real estate guru, I guess, in this area. And he's a developer. He's been in the real estate market his whole career, and he's the more research that I did as I started this process, the more I realized how much of a legacy he's left, here in our town. And so we're pretty fortunate to have him a part of this process. We definitely have all of his input, which has been really helpful. And my husband does home automation he's a Equestrian integrator. There's only one Equestrian integrator here in town in Augusta, Georgia. He brought it here and does beautiful work. It's just fully automated homes. The comps, in other cities for what he does, all of those homes are multi-million-dollar homes. The types of systems that he does are pretty incredible. But the drawback to that is everything that he's done here, the people that have these systems in their homes, none of them are selling their homes. So we have the system in our home, but we don't have any true comp as far as that goes. So we've had several different bank appraisers come in through our home over the years for different reasons. And every time they look at our system and they go, I don't even know how to put a value on this. I mean, I could see that there's value, but I don't even know what to do with it. And I think that's also just because it's relatively new in our area as well. As far as our story, when we built this house, we found this beautiful little lot in a neighborhood that it overlooks the lake and golf course, and it was just really pretty. And we built the house as our forever home and also as an investment for my husband's business. He doesn't have a showroom here in town just yet, so our house acted like his showroom. He could bring his clients over and demonstrate what the lighting does and just the whole automation, our automated shades, our home theater, the audio visual. We have surround sound in just about every room and zone in our house, inside and outside. And it can all be, playing the same thing at the same time or individually doing anything that anyone wants it to do. So it's a pretty interesting system and exciting. And he's been able to show it to all of his clients, over the years. And when we were building this house, we knew basically from the beginning that we were overbuilding for our area. Our neighbors, everybody around here, they don't really have this type of a home. They also don't have the square footage that we have, et cetera. And so we knew that as far as resale later on, we weren't making the best choices, but we weren't really planning on ever reselling our house. We have 3 beautiful children, 3 little girls. About 8 months ago, our third little baby girl, Anastasia, passed away suddenly from SIDS. She was 4 days shy of 4 months old. That's kind of how we found ourselves here. We love this home. We never planned on selling it, but the cemetery is a little bit of a drive from where we are, and we go there every day, sometimes more than once a day, and just driving back and forth. And both of us found ourselves basically living out of our car, having to pack everything we need for the day and have it with us because everything that we do now is on a different side of town. My husband suggested a few months ago that maybe we should find a lot or a house that's closer to the cemetery so we didn't have to drive so much. And it was just one of those, I never wanted to sell this home, but I decided to just trust him, and he knew how much I love this home, but if he still thought that it was the best thing for us, then, I'd go where he goes. We found a piece of land that's about 4 minutes from the cemetery, and it ended up being one of those just perfect in every way situations. I mean, my sister-in-law lived right around the corner, and just everything and everyone kind of surrounding that area, that property, it just all really came together, and we just knew that was the right step for us. So we decided to do that, and we're faced with, for the first time, oh my gosh, now what are we going to do? We have to sell this home, and it's at least twice the value of any other home in our immediate neighborhood. in some cases 3 times the value. How are we going to approach this, and how are we going to tackle this almost impossible task? And so that's kind of how I got into all this. This is how I found you. I started having to look up, any way I could present this home in the best light, and I found you pretty quickly, and I have listened to just about every single episode that you have multiple times, and of course I did your 30-day home staging challenge as well. So that's kind of that's the background of our house and sort of how we got to where we are right now.
I can't tell you how grateful I am for you for coming on the show and share your story, because I know having lost someone who's very important to me very suddenly, I can sort of understand the grief that you went through. And for me personally, it's something really hard for me to talk about. And for you to be able to come on the show and talk about it, I am very grateful that you're willing to do that. And I feel very honored that you trust me enough to go through this home staging process with you, because I know this must be a very emotional time for you as well, because this was kind of your dream home.
I appreciate it. Like I told you before, you've been such a help for me. It isn't the easiest story to share, but I feel like I've just learned so much from you. So anything you need, I'm happy to give back in any way.
I really appreciate it, because I think it's really invaluable for people who are similar in your situations, who don't know how to approach staging, right, and to hear stories like yours, because then they can learn from your experiences, like what they can do. Because one of the issues I have, I think, with staging in general is that not everyone can afford to be able to hire professional home stagers, or they just simply don't have access to them, because staging is not popular in their area at all. There's no home stagers there. And so that's why I think it's really amazing that you're willing to come on the show to share your story. And I know this is a real challenge, because this is a very rare, I think it's fairly common where you have built this dream home for yourself, and then so you basically put in all this stuff, you customize it, and it really boosts the value for you to live in it. But when it comes to the resale market treats it very differently. It's difficult for banks to come up with comps, because there's a lot of your husband's work, right? Because he needs to use it as a showroom as well, and you benefit it with your lifestyle. But that makes it really difficult to come up with comps for agents and for bank officers as well. So I'm curious, because your father-in-law is such an experienced real estate professional, did he say anything about how you should tackle this challenge?
It was actually very interesting. I had these 2 great resources at my hands, and I really was kind of alone in the pursuit for this vision I had in mind, because they've been in the real estate market as long as they have been. And right now, as far as the appraisals go and everything, as far as I understand, things changed a little bit with the Dodd-Frank Act and everything. Everything's very cut and dry, black and white, and so there's just really strict guidelines now on how you can value homes. One person I spoke with that's an appraiser said that, if you have one house on one side of the street that has hardwood floors and granite countertops, this, that, and the other, and this many square feet and rooms, then another house right next to it has laminate floors and, just all low-grade everything, but the same square feet and rooms, etc., they're going to be valued just about the same nowadays. That's what I was told. And so you have to be really careful, I guess, maybe with the upgrades that you choose if you're looking for return on investment based on the comps that you have in your area. That's kind of what I was told. I'm not sure. So I'm not sure how valid all of it is, but just every person that I spoke with locally in this field had kind of confirmed all of that. And it was kind of disheartening realizing that, oh my gosh, all these things that we had, none of them are going to add any value to our home. So what are we going to do now? So our immediate neighborhood, there's a larger neighborhood that we live in, and then there's a little subset that we're inside of as well. So the larger neighborhood has house values anywhere from, let's say, $350,000 to $900,000. But then our immediate neighborhood, there's smaller lots, closer together. I think that the larger neighborhood has maybe half acre. Some of them might even be larger lots. Ours are a lot smaller. So these homes are generally in the 200 range, but there's a select few homes that are on that view, and those lots were more expensive. The houses built on that side were built nicely, and they had more upgrades and everything. So those are pretty spread out as far as home value. I mean, I have one neighbor that has her house on the market for $350, and another one that has their house on the market for $800, or more than that, $840. So it's just very across the board. Now, as far as all of our upgrades and everything, we engineered a slab underneath our garage. Our house is on a sloping lot, so just about everybody with this view has a basement. So a lot of us have 3 floors. And we decided to take full advantage of that basement and suspended a slab underneath the full front of the house to add square footage. And we got an additional 2,000 square feet to our basement. And it's, 11-foot ceilings, walkout. You have tall, large windows surrounding most of the basement. So we have quite a bit of square footage based on what size our lot is. The number that we were kind of thinking, my father-in-law that came in, his number in mind was somewhere around the 700s as far as where the true market value is of our home. But then if you look at our neighborhood, a lot of those are in the 200 range. So it's really hard to justify that as far as comps go. We had another real estate agent come through and give us her market analysis, and she, pretty quickly after she saw the home and everything that we have, she's like, gosh, easily list it for $7, it'll probably sell for $730 or more without any trouble whatsoever. And so we were kind of, right off the bat, we were thinking, okay, things are fine, things are going to be good. And then we had, because we built our home in stages, and a lot of it was out of pocket along the way, we had several bank appraisers come through our home just with each new construction step. And, every time we added this, that, and the other in our basement and everything, for permits and everything, we've just had our several evaluations on our home. And our more recent one, a couple years ago, before we finished out our basement, our home valued at $475. That was with an unfinished basement. And then now, when we started this process, we had a bank appraiser come in before we bought the additional land on the other side of town. Our house was valued at $500, which was a pretty big blow for us. We were thinking, oh my goodness, only $25,000 more when we have 2,000 extra square feet. There's a home theater down there. We have a billiards room, a second kitchen, a wet bar, 2 bedrooms, a bathroom, all these things. And we only got an additional $25 for that. And we were hoping to sell our home in the $700 range. So that was pretty big blow. And so to answer your question, my husband and father-in-law they kind of looked into the status of the appraisals and the market and everything. They were kind of ready to just go, okay, well, you still have some equity in your home, and, this is just what it is. You knew that we were overbuilding, and that's what happens when you overbuild for your neighborhood, and it's not a loss. We still have some equity, and unfortunately, it's not going to be as much as we were hoping, kind of a thing. And my husband's approach was even like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to have to remove a lot of the technology, because that isn't at least maybe $150,000 worth of technology in our home. That was kind of where their game plan was. And so, back when I said I kind of felt like I was on my own, and as far as this vision I had, it was me kind of in a corner going, okay, this home just means too much to me. It's everything we put into it, but also, that's the house that my baby lived her whole life in. I want to do I want to do it justice, and I want to find, ultimately my number one goal is to find somebody that buys this house that just really, really loves it and is going to care for it and just appreciate it, and feel like they're so lucky that they got it. And instead, on the other side, I would hate to see somebody buy it and then a few years later it goes back on the market and someone else buys it, and so on and so forth. I mean, I know that that's what happens, and there's nothing I can do to control that, but that's I would just hate to see that. I just want somebody else to just love it and want it to be their forever home and just really feel like they found a gem. I knew that in order to do that, I'm going to have to present it a certain way and to really find a specific kind of buyer that, is going to appreciate all these things. And so I just delved into a ton of research. Like I said, I listen to your podcast constantly. As far as how to present this home, I knew that the first thing I needed to do was make sure that every single space in this entire house is better than the last, that there isn't a single corner or room that you walk into that somebody would say, I wonder why they did that, or that looks a little bit odd to me. I'd probably do it differently. It was just, I knew that every space had to be seemingly perfect, so that the person that leaves the house is going to feel nothing but positive. Oh my gosh, what a gorgeous home. I have to have it. And that's where I think the staging makes such a huge difference. I also did a lot of research as far as the real estate market and different ways of approaching selling your house and what technically defines a high-end home or a luxury home and all these things. And one of the answers that I got was, a house that's twice the value of the average value, home value in your area. Twice that value is a high-end home and 3 times the value is a luxury home. And so we kind of, based on what we were thinking the value of our home is, like we kind of nestled into the, the high-end area. And so I really had to start looking at, okay, well, what do you do when you're selling a high-end home? How do you market this? And how do you approach it? How do you stage it? And, all of the high-end homes have just top-notch staging and photography, video, etc. I just knew that was something that I needed to do. And then my husband and father-in-law were just kind of like, okay, well, you do your thing. I really don't think it's going to make a difference, though, because the market is the market, and you can't just change that. The bank appraisal is the bank appraisal, and whoever's going to buy the house is only going to get that much from the bank. It's not going to make a difference, but if this is something that matters to you, then go for it. So it was kind of just me pushing through. We don't have the results yet, but there's been a lot of positive that has come out of it. I started by, after listening to your podcast, that, I was clearing out a lot of the house. One of the things I mentioned to you before as well is a lot of people here in Augusta rent out their house. During the Masters tournament, there's a whole bunch of people that come in from out of town, so most of the homeowners will list it for a rental. And people will come in, stay for a week, and you get a lot of times, a good amount of money that can, you can put towards your mortgage or towards a vacation or anything. And it's because it's 7 days, it's not taxed and everything. So it's something that a lot of people like to do here. And so because we've always listed our house for rental, I've always had it pretty organized and set up really well. We never had a clutter issue. I'm a little bit OCD, clean freak and everything, so I keep things pretty tidy as it is. I laugh at a lot of the comments that you make, Cindy, when you talk about how, you're all into organization and these different things, different ways of keeping things straight and making sure, whether it's through Evernote and all of your lists and everything. That's just exactly how I approach just about every task. So because we rent our house during Masters, I've been able to see how our house fares compared to our neighbors. And that was something that I learned in all my research. I said, okay, well, how does, we've always gotten consistent rentals. Not everybody can rent their home if there isn't enough interest, but we've gotten consistent rentals, competitive offers sometimes. We usually get contacted right after Masters to go ahead and to book our home because they don't want it to get booked by somebody else. We've had some high-profile people stay in our home, and so we've always rented about $25,000 every year. And in my research, I found because you can see what the other houses are listing their homes for Masters rental. All of our neighbors are renting theirs for $10,000 or less. Most of them are less, and so ours is obviously showing well as it is. There's plenty of interest in how our house appeals to out-of-town guests and everything. So I've always thought the house was great. And even when I started this whole process, friends and family when I mentioned it to them, they're like, Agnes, you're staging your home. Are you kidding me? Why are you doing that? Your house is already staged. It already looks great. What are you wasting your time doing all that for? I actually had to just basically stop sharing any information with just about anybody else because I didn't want to have anything distracting me or deterring me from that ultimate vision that I had. So I just kind of, after getting a lot of the not so constructive feedback saying, oh, don't waste your time. It already is fine as it is. I just kind of had to all right, I'll just keep it to myself and keep on going. And I just started clearing out a lot of the stuff. Like I said, I didn't have a clutter problem, but one of the things that you were able to illustrate for me in a lot of your episodes was, an office that's a functioning office looks one way, but a staged office looks a completely different way. There isn't a whole bunch of paperwork out, and even if it's nicely stacked or, nicely organized and et cetera, that's just not how you stage an office. You have to show the potential and the suggestion of an office as opposed to how an office really does look like. So a lot of things like that. I have my own office near the kitchen, and I just started clearing out all of those cabinets and made sure that, the drawer just had one notebook with one pen on it or next to it instead of a whole bunch of notebooks in there and, those types of things. Because I know everybody's going to be opening up those drawers. They're built-in. It's a built-in office. So, it just a lot of that kind of stuff that maybe did seem to other people like it was a waste of my time. But I kind of thought, you know what? We're going to be moving anyways. I'm going to have to clear these out anyways. So might as well do it now and not with a whole bunch of stress, later on. Oh my gosh, we have to leave in this many weeks or days and throwing things into boxes. This way I was able to do it slowly with a lot more focus, I guess. So I did a lot of that. Our storage, we have tons of storage in our house, but we have definitely filled it up with a lot of things, crafts and everything. I'm an artist. I oil paint. So I have a lot of painting supplies around, and even though they're organized, I knew I had to clear them out because one of the things you mentioned quite a bit is if your storage spaces are so filled up, the person looking at it doesn't see how much space that they have for storage. All they see is that, oh my gosh, is there enough room? Look at how full this is. So there was a lot of work as far as that goes, clearing things out, which I thought was beneficial and everything, but the more I got into your course and the more I got into your episodes and everything, the more I realized there's, curb appeal is such a big thing too. So I spent weeks gardening and really sprucing up our curb appeal on the outside of the house. When you drive up, it's just hours and hours of work gardening as far as that goes, but it looks beautiful now. And that was one of the things where, a lot of my family was looking at, like, Agnes, what are you doing? Why are you spending so much time doing all that gardening? Your house is fine as it is. But then as soon as the finished product, was there and they saw how nice all the gardening and the landscaping looks now, they go, oh, okay, this is why you did it. Wow. Now that looks so much better. And that was kind of everything that I tackled was a lot of everybody else saying it was unnecessary until they saw it. And they said, oh my gosh, we have this deck on our basement level floor that opens up to the view that we have. It's a really beautiful area, but I never got around to finishing it out, really making it an inviting space. It was a concrete slab, and we've tried putting rugs there in the past, but because there's no awning over our upper patio, the water just seeps down there, and any sort of area rug, outdoor area rug, it just gets mushy, and it doesn't last for very long. There's just way too much moisture. And so I realized, a long while ago that I'm probably going to end up having to tile it out here, maybe put some brick or something, and that's, pretty big project. I never got around to it. I also wanted to do some drapes out there to frame out some of the columns, but they're a little over 12 foot. It's a little bit over 12 foot ceiling out on in that deck area. So when you calculate, how much per yard of fabric, my mother-in-law taught me how to sew, so I always thought, well, I could just sew them up myself. But when you total up how much fabric you need for that many, for 12-foot ceilings out there and that many columns that you want to frame out, it was just, no matter how you slice it, it's going to be a really expensive project either way, and a lot of work to sew that many drapes. And so I always just kind of put it aside, thinking, one of these days I'll get to it, and it'll one of these days it'll be in an inviting space. But now that we're facing this whole selling your home, when the comps aren't what you want them to be, that, I realize that that's one of the spaces I absolutely have to make sure looks presentable and looks beautiful. It's one of the greatest things about our house is this view. Like I said before, I knew that every space you walk into has to be better than the last. And so I didn't want them to see this beautiful house and then finally walk out to our deck and say, ooh, what are you going to do here? It doesn't look very good. I'll never come out here. I knew it needed to be kind of the final wow. I looked around. I couldn't find any cost efficient way of really, flooring it or anything like that. We couldn't put that much money into this house because we were already facing this comp issue that we had, and we just really couldn't justify putting too much. So I was talking to one of my girlfriends in town. She's actually from California, so she always has these new innovative ideas about things, and she told me that she's seen in the Pottery Barn catalogs lately that a lot of people are stenciling their flooring, and some people will even stencil their floor to make it look like a rug and things like that. So I sounded kind of odd to me when she said that, but I looked into it, and oh my gosh, what a great idea. I'm so glad that she mentioned it because I ended up doing it, and it was I think the best part of staging my house. It was the greatest transformation as far as me or anybody else who has seen it has kind of believes. And I found a nice stencil. I didn't end up doing it like a rug. I found a stencil online that I bought and basically just cleaned out the concrete floor. I primed it, painted it it was all concrete outdoor paint. I just needed to get a gallon of the primer, a gallon of the dark color, a gallon of the light color, and a stencil, so it wasn't very expensive. It did take a lot of work. It was pretty time-consuming to stencil it all out. It's not that big of a space, but it's a little bit more challenging than it looks like it might be. And I'm an artist as well. My dad's a contractor, and he was helping do a lot of the projects inside of our house. I had him start this stenciling project thinking, okay, he's really great at this kind of stuff, and I've got two little girls that run around all the time, so I can't be painting out there with them running all over the wet paint and messing it up, so I just didn't think that I was going to be able to do it. So I had him start it, and he was kind of frustrated with it because it kept bleeding and everything. Every time he painted over a new part, it bled through, and so it was really frustrating for him. So I ended up one night just taking over the project, worked through the night for a couple of weeks or so. That way my kids were asleep and I wouldn't have to worry about them running over it, and then I could just finish it on my own in my own pace and everything. So it did take a little while, but it was probably the most fun project that I did in the whole house. The first stencil that I did, I just sat there and went, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I even asked my dad to do this. I should have been the one doing it from the first place. I'm a painter. This is what I live to do. I love doing it. And it was just so much fun for me. And so I finished out the whole deck. I went through and I repainted some of the ones that bled from the first part of it. The final result is just so beautiful. I still wanted to do the drapes for that lower deck. And again, the fabric, for how much fabric I'd need, it would just end up being really expensive. So I did some research and found a discount wedding supply store online, and there was a burlap aisle runner that they had. It was 100 feet long, and I only needed 99 feet, and it was like $75 or something. So I jumped on that and bought it. and figured out on Pinterest how to do no-sew drapes, so I wasn't spending tons and tons of time on them. Just basically pieced together the burlap. I used fabric tape and framed out the columns. It wasn't very expensive, and when you walk out there now, it looks like it's a retreat. It feels like it's a retreat. You know, this really just serene area. Our view is beautiful, but also the sun sets right behind this beautiful church across the lake. And so you end up having some of the most beautiful sunsets, and you can see them so perfectly when you're sitting out there on that stenciled floor with those drapes. You know, you can see through them, so you can still fully appreciate the sunsets. It's such a beautiful area, and I honestly wouldn't have gone to those lengths to do all of that down there if I hadn't really, you know, put my focus on home staging and making sure that, you know, every room was better than the last, because just about everybody else that walked through the house said, you know, that's not the best area of the house, but everything else is so wonderful that you really don't need to worry about it. You know, let the new buyers figure out what they're going to do there. I'm glad that I didn't just go with what everybody else said, and I just, you know, decided to know every single space. Every one of them matters. You know, you've said in a lot of your episodes, don't forget the garage. That's the part of the house you're selling. You know, so you can't just dump everything in there, or it can't be dirty. You know, that's part of it. They're going to look in the garage. You know, every space matters. And so, which that was another project for us too. That took just as long as the deck, but I'm glad that I wasn't ignoring those areas it literally was just about every single person that told me, don't waste your time. It doesn't matter, you know, I'm glad that now that it's all finished, you know, that I did it, I put in the work, and it just looks so beautiful now. And I really feel like when you walk through this home, it really is, every room is just better than the last.
That's really great to hear. I'm really glad actually you didn't listen to the naysayers, because I think with staging, I think in some areas where staging is not popular, people are really used to not staging their house ever. And so when this idea of staging come in, it seems like such a new thing, and it could be construed as a waste of time. But we've interviewed, we're season 6 now, so I've interviewed quite a bunch of people, like including stagers and realtors, and everybody who believes in staging has seen a huge improvement in their business model for real estate agents or sellers in terms of getting more money and sold in less time. I mean, all this stuff has statistics to back up. So I'm really glad that you're able to find a podcast and a blog and to just kind of stand your own ground and then make sure you did what's best for your home. As far as pricing goes, I know it's very deflating to see the bank numbers, but one of the things I have to say too is that you had real estate agents that came through and gave you basically the comps, right? The marketing analysis that they did. And they give you a higher price and they're practicing realtors specialized in your neighborhood, I think there are some weights to what they say about your pricing. The other thing that I think is very encouraging for you is actually the master suite, because you're able to rent your home out for $25,000 versus your neighbors who can only rent less than $10,000. That in itself is a huge advantage when you're selling your house, because your house has a lot of market appeal, and I think a lot of it probably has to do with the home automation that your husband put in. Because
I think a lot of out-of-towners are more familiar with it and want that.
Yes, because that is a luxury property. Like when you go to a hotel, like in Vegas, for example, like Vegas has a very wide range of hotels, right? You can stay in a budget one, or you can spend a little bit more money and stay in the luxury one. And not I say at a penthouse in Las Vegas, but I've watched Hangover. And, you know, I think higher-end market, especially people, for example, who will attend Masters tournaments, they want those more high-end accommodations. And that's why your house would be able to rent out a significant amount than your neighbors. I know you're going to talk to a realtor tonight. I would just say that when you're choosing a realtor, you really want to make sure this is somebody who knows your neighborhood very, very well. They specialize in your neighborhood. It's like any sports. Like, if you want to win a tournament, you need to have the best people on your team, right? So if you look at, Daytona, for example, you need the best car mechanics, you need the best driver, you need the best person who knows the cars, who's able to buy the best parts. And so the same thing with selling your home as well. So you really need to be able to make sure everybody who's on your team knows exactly what needs to be done and what they need to be doing. And so picking a great realtor in the sale is going to be really key for you to have a very successful sale. You've done a great deal to stage your home, because I've seen your before and after, and I'm actually really glad that you were able to transform this backyard patio, because I think the before and after was such a huge difference. I mean, that in itself, your after is going to add value to your home. And I think I'm glad that you really took a lot of things I said to heart, because it's true. I think a lot of times people feel very overwhelmed in terms of the staging process. And it sounds like you really put in the effort and really go at this full time to do it, which is really great.
And it was so helpful to have your podcast, because really I started out looking for a home stager here, and I couldn't find one. And so that's when I really got into your process. I ended up later on, this has been going on for, it feels like months now, but later on I ended up finding somebody that is a stager locally. And I actually, I talked to my husband. I said, I know that it's probably a waste, to hire somebody to come in and look at this place for a consultation, but I really I need that, somebody to just give me that affirmation, or if there's something I'm missing. So, much later on in the process, I did have a stager come walk through, and she thought everything was great. Gave me a couple of pointers here and there. And to me, just having that, okay, there's somebody that, does this, that's looking at it and giving me the thumbs up, that settles my nerves a lot more. It took a lot of work to even find her. We really don't have much of a market here for that. And it was, along with real estate photography, I couldn't find any local real estate photographers. I had to branch out to South Carolina to find somebody that can come photograph my home the way that I wanted it to be done. And, a lot of the listings here locally, I've been looking at all of the listings in our area, and a lot of the photos, I can't believe my eyes. I'm from California and watch HGTV. I see that, what it should be. And I'm going, oh my gosh, this house is listed for $900, and these photos, I can't believe that there's just iPhone photos of that house online. It should be, so much nicer than that. That's a beautiful space, but it's hard to see that, in the way that it's showing. And so I had to do a lot of research there. And I think a lot of the family and friends that were saying, oh gosh, you really don't need to be doing all that. It's only been 8 months since my baby passed away. So I think a lot of them were just like out of concern, like, don't go too much into this. You're still grieving and all that. But for me, it was really therapeutic to feel like I was doing her justice, doing this house justice, and really honoring that memory and everything. So it was really a therapeutic process for me. And then, of course, as soon as everything was done, everybody's, giving me a round of applause for, wow, didn't even realize this needed so much work, but it looks so much better now. And I completely agree with you. Having the best team makes such a huge difference. It makes all the difference. And that includes the staging and everything. I really appreciated all the feedback that I got online through your Facebook group. You have a private Facebook group that I posted some pictures and asked for some suggestions. And it was just amazing getting, as much response as I got and your feedback. Of course, I hold that up, pretty high on a little bit of a pedestal, because you've just been such a help for me. And so all of that has been so helpful, and it really did give this end result, such a bang like I was hoping for it to give. And I did a bunch of market research in real estate just research in the real estate market, and just spoke with as many other appraisers and real estate agents as I could to kind of get more of an understanding of, okay, what do I do here? Found this one appraiser who has just this amazing reputation. His reputation is strong enough to where you can even in your property description say, this appraiser appraises it for this much, and that his name is has so much weight that you can even use that as a benefit for your property listing details and everything. So I got in touch with this appraiser, kind of talked to him about, okay, this is what we were thinking we were going to sell it for. This is what the bank appraisal came back at. What do I do? I mean, can you come look at this house and tell me, is that where we're at? You know, am I wasting my time here and all this energy thinking that I can sell it for more when it's just a lost cause kind of a thing, or am I justified in pushing for this? And so he came, just loved the house. He was able to reach out a little bit further into that second neighborhood that we have. He's got enough of a reputation where he's not worried that if the first one kept saying, well, if I can't reach out too far because then I'm going to get flagged. This guy wasn't worried about that a bit. He said, if you don't have comps, you don't have comps. You have to find them, for these different categories and things. And so he came back and gave us an appraisal of his analysis was $600. So it was $100,000 more. Mm-hmm. And his reputation is strong enough to where our bank threw out the other one and used his instead because he just knows. He just has been doing this for so long and keeps up with whatever he needs to keep up with and does such a great job. They threw out the other one. To that, my husband and father-in-law were, doing jumping jacks and high fives. Like, Agnes, you just completely turned this around. This is the best news we've gotten so far, And of course, he came and saw it after I staged it, although I do know that bank appraisals don't factor in how the house is staged. They look for a lot more specific things, but all that pushing and all that research and all that energy, it's already coming up, in all these positive ways. And now everyone's kind of rallying up, in a team saying, okay, this was a good method. This was right. We should have done all that. And, good for you for being the one to keep pushing. And now we're reevaluating our entire approach. We're actually even, because of the type of technology and everything that we have in our house, we're even considering just privately, not really listing it publicly, but privately just having the brokers come and do a broker open house and have them bring their one or two clients that they just know are going to love it and kind of show our house that way. At least we'll attempt it. That's what I'm pushing for. I've asked everybody to, can we just try it my way? We just don't really have anything to lose. It's not going to be on the market any longer by doing it my way. And just kind of see what feedback we get from all the brokers in town and see, before we give any numbers or decide any numbers, let's just figure out, who has that buyer that's going to love this home and want to be here for a long term, and just really feel lucky to have it kind of a thing. And then based on how that goes, we'll list or not list. I mean, we'll see how it goes, but that's just kind of the process that I've kind of come up with, the strategy I've come up with. And luckily everybody's on board now. So with my father-in-law, he's got, every contact you could possibly want or need in town. And just there's not a person here that has anything bad to say about him. Everybody adores him. And so if there's anybody that can get the right kind of attention, I definitely think it's him. But I agree that you want that strong team, which is why I also branched out and asked a lot of other people as many questions as I could, and then to come and sort of guide me in this. So far, it's been working out well. I'm looking forward to sharing with you how it actually ends up doing in the end.
No, I'm really looking forward to it because I know we're doing the interview in June, but this episode will probably go live around August. So I'll be definitely reaching out to you to see how it all went. And the other thing I want to say about pricing is that I know it's not as higher prices you want it to be. But I have to say, too, all the improvement that your husband and you have put in, you guys have also enjoyed it. So that's also another return on investment, because I think a lot of times when sellers are selling, they kind of forgot that, you know, they enjoy the home for X amount of period. And all these improvements improve your lifestyle as well. So even though it might not give you the return on investment in terms of resale, but it has give you like emotional and like physical enjoyment of the home. So that's also another return on investment. It's just that I think in terms of selling, we really place the emphasis on monetary return on investment. But I would say that I'm really happy to hear that now all these naysayers, like, you change your mind, and there's a lot of positive things that come from it because of it. Because I also think that you have a promising career in real estate, because I think a successful real estate a professional, really is about problem solving for their clients. And you have been super creative to problem solve for everything, and was able to just pretty much research. And I mean, even that, getting the drapes from, you know, a wedding supply store, that is outside of box thinking. So I really want to applaud you for that, and also give you a lot of credit, because I think a lot of times sellers can get lazy or complacent. I'm sorry to say that, especially in my market, where it's very easy to hire someone professional to come in to do it. And so when that happens, the sellers don't have as much skin in the game in a lot of ways, because they feel like, well, I just outsource this, and then once the stage is done, but then they don't maintain it, they don't upkeep it, they're just living in their house.
Some of the hardest parts is maintaining it. I feel like I've had to completely restage this house probably 3 or 4 different times, just because of children and life and all these different things. You know, it's not easy. And to hire a stager to come do it and then think that that's it. Because that's not the end of the story. You got to keep it going.
Just the beginning, actually. I think selling your house is it's a long game, actually, because there's so much, like, I'm curious, like, so how long did this whole process take you, from research and finishing the staging of your house?
Gosh, I wish I remembered exactly when we started, but it has been probably 2.5 months, I would say.
Right. Yeah. It's a long process. And you're just beginning, because your house is not even on the market yet. So you have to find ways to be able to maintain your staging. I think one of our guests had a really good point. Nina, the first episode in the season, like, she
I love that
organizer.
Episode,
yes, she got a really good tip. It's that, you know, you have to limit your children a certain place to hang out to kind of minimize the movement of the staging. And actually,
there's certain rooms in our house that I'll walk. I just say, okay, can't go in there, you know. And we have 5,300 square feet. There's a lot of, which is why it's taken so long. So there's a lot of space here, and it's exhausting to have to clean it all up all the time. For staging standards, you know. So our basement level, I pretty much block it off and say, don't even go in there, kids. I love you. I know you love your fun hobby room that we do all the arts and crafts in and all these things, or movies and all that. But that's just 2,000 square feet. I don't need to also be keeping up, because it's a lot to have to keep things, because you're putting so much away that you're using regularly, you know, I've already started getting into the habit of keeping it staged ready, because I know that whenever people are coming to see the house, you know, if we're all in the habit of keeping things clean now, it'll be a lot easier to do it when it really matters.
Exactly. It's kind of like having a dinner party all the time. Like, you just have to be on point. I know it can be difficult, but I think it will work. It will be well worth the effort to do that.
I think so. Yeah.
I interview a real estate agent this week. She's one of the top producers here in the Bay Area, and she gave this interesting idea. She said a lot of her colleagues and her, they actually recommend sellers to move into an Airbnb for a month when their home is on the market, or they time it where the sellers go on vacation, and by the time, this Bay Area market is really strange. Like most homes basically sell within 30 days. So they're able to do that. So yeah, there's definitely different ways to make it more bearable, I think, to live in a stage home.
I have a friend of mine in town. She has 4 kids, and they were all back to back to back. So I think she at one point had 3 in diapers or something. And they're just super close in age. And her mom's a real estate agent. It was one of the people that I spoke with as well, and who gave me some great feedback. When she was selling her house a couple years ago, she basically said, "There's absolutely no way I'm going to sell this house with all these kids." And she has a dog, a big dog, and everything. So they have a little lake house that's about 45 minutes away, and they all just moved there. And it was so inconvenient to have to drive in and out of town at that much distance all the time. I know in California, 45-minute drive does not sound like a lot. I was used to doing that all the time. Once you move into a smaller town, though, it really feels very far because of just how much everything else is so close. It just feels so far. And so that's what they had to do. They had to move out and sold their house no problem. And I'm sure it was for the price they wanted and everything, but they really did have to, with that many kids and everything, it's impossible to keep it up. I think, well, not impossible, but it's really difficult to do that. So one other thing I wanted to mention, but I can't remember it, but one of your other episodes that I listened to a couple of times, one of the things that I found really interesting was just about everybody around. Now, because we rent our houses here for masters, we pretty much have to stage it and do spring cleaning like minimum once a year, because before everybody comes to stay, you have to really basically stage your home. You have to keep a lot of things away. So a lot of times people will get a storage unit for Masters Week to get all the things that shouldn't be out for whenever the renters come and everything. And one of the companies that we worked with one year told us to make sure to remove all personal photos of the family and everything. That's all I pretty much had out at that year. And so I had to very quickly, remove all that. Then I had a whole bunch of empty walls, and which didn't look very great. So I had to replace all of that. Luckily, I'm an artist, so I just painted a whole bunch of quick paintings of flowers and whatever else, to fill the wall space up with. And so now I have that for Masters Rentals and everything for the coming years. Everybody else just about in town that I spoke with, especially, maybe the older generation and everything, were shocked that I had to remove the personal photos. And so now staging my house, that was one of the things I had to do. We actually had a whole bunch of photos and canvases and everything that our friends got printed for us after our baby passed away. And they just we came home a few days later, and they had just her photos were everywhere. And it was just so beautiful and special. And we just kept it that way for, the time being. And now that we're staging our house, I had to start removing all of that stuff again, all the photos and everything. And just about everybody was telling me, "Why are you removing photos? What do you mean? You don't have to remove photos." My mom was so funny. She was like, "Agnes, you guys are a beautiful family. You should be proud. I'm sure it'll help sell your house more." Of course, a mom that just loves everything about, her kids and everything. So, but one of your episodes, I knew that I needed to remove them. But one of the episodes you had, I think in season 5 or 4, Michelle Fanamore, I think is her name. She talked about the security and the safety issue of that, that people come through your home and they might take a picture. And if you have your kids' names and photos everywhere, somebody will take a picture of some part of your house that they like and then post it somewhere. And, just a million different ways where, all of that can come out, and safety issues, and of course that's something that I'm extra sensitive to now, but I was glad to have listened to your podcast, because as I was removing all the photos that everybody was telling me not to remove, it was easier to say, you know what, it's a safety issue. So it was a good silencer, but it's also something I didn't think about in the previous years when I was removing the photos for Masters Rental. But it makes perfect sense. And like you said in that episode, everything on the internet is written in ink, it doesn't go away. And so it's there, and you just have to be careful about what you put out there.
Yeah, I agree with that very much, especially with today's world. Like, you just never know. And Michelle actually asked me cut out a bit in that because I think some of the conversation we end up having was a little bit dark from the show. But because I think there's family members of hers that work in police station. And I think, especially with identity theft nowadays, or people using other, catfish, I think is fairly mild, but compared to some of the identity theft things I've heard, like these horror stories. But I really want sellers to be able to be really think about security issues for once. Because once you put your house on the market, you have a virtual tour, it's out there. I mean, they've done CSI episodes on this where basically there's a burglar casing the house by watching the virtual tours online. They know where all your valuables are, that kind of thing. We have colleagues where the stage homes are broken into. It's happened for a while in San Francisco as well, especially homes that have these lockbox on the stuff. Like thieves will come at night, cut out the lockbox, and then
oh my goodness,
so they can come back later with a key. I was interviewed by, I think it was San Francisco Chronicle once, about safety and open house and stuff like that. And the reporter was laughing. He said that recently there was a case in Los Gatos, which is like this more high-end town, suburb in the Bay Area. The reporter was laughing. He was like, oh, I don't understand. Like, whoever stole, so what happened was they stole just minor stuff. A few artwork, nothing huge, some nice accessories and stuff. But when they left, they took the garage opener and the sprinkler remote. And he was laughing. He was like, why would they take the sprinkler's remote? And I was kind of like, they probably couldn't figure out what remote is what, so they took everything. So they can come back later with a truck to back up
and get the rest of it.
And get the rest of it. And if they have an opener, neighbors would just think, oh, it's the movers are coming. So, I think security is really something that I really want sellers to pay attention to. It's something that we don't really talk about on the show because I think it freaks people out.
It is one of the reasons why we, we're not so concerned here, but again, that's kind of a silly thing to say because it can happen anywhere. But one of the reasons why we want to start by doing a private listing and at least see how that goes is because with my husband's equipment, I mean, if we put out there in the public and just market it everywhere that this is a Equestrian home automated system and all these things. I mean, one little box, that you can carry yourself, that one box is a technology piece, is $15,000 or $30,000. One piece can walk out the door and, no problem. Not that, again, I'm not so concerned that a bunch of the people here locally are going to do that, but it's something that we have to consider and think about. Do we want to have a whole bunch of open houses with all these people coming through with all this equipment, or it can get damaged and different things like that, So we have to be a little bit more strategic about, how we allow the different people in and out of the house, and one of the things you mentioned in your podcast many times was the kitchen knives too. I never thought about that as, for safety reasons, you have to put those away, but we did. And I would have never in a million years considered that as a safety hazard for, selling your home. But I mean, it makes sense when you think about it.
Yeah, it is crazy. I mean, before I was a stager, I was a buyer's agent. And then, so you hear stories in the office and stuff. And I remember one real estate agent was saying that, at open house, somebody came in. At the first open house, when you're doing public open houses, usually it's 100 to 200 people, at least in the Bay Area.
Wow.
In a 3-hour window for first open house, I mean, that's a lot of people. There's no way the real estate agent is able to monitor. And so
what's going on all the time.
Yeah.
And especially if there's children coming in and out and things like that.
And then he was saying that somebody stole a bunch of medication out of medicine cabinets. And I was like, oh, my God, stuff like that happens? As a rookie agent, I was just, blown. It just blew my mind. But then the longer
I would imagine that would be one of the easiest things to do and something that would happen quite a bit, actually, now that you mention it. It's so easy to just look into somebody's bathroom or wherever they keep it and just, wow.
Yeah, and, things like that. And I've gone to open houses where, sellers just leave their like credit card bill on the table. I mean, those are all security concerns, especially with now identity theft, because I was almost a victim of identity theft. So I'm very aware of that, especially your mail. Like people can get a lot of information from your mail, which was what happened to me. They stole mail from my mailbox, and they're very clever. They only took a few at a time, so you never notice. It's not like you went and like your entire stack of mail is gone. So like you didn't really was aware that was happening. And luckily they got caught early by a routine traffic check. And so I was able to block all the
salvage a lot of your
Yeah. So like I was very lucky that way. But like really open house, you know, if you're living in a home while selling, I think most of the time most of the projects in the end for us is all vacant projects, so it's not really a concern for sellers. But even as stager, we have our inventory stolen. I went to pull a house back. All the light bulbs in the house were gone. I don't know, it must be a college student or something. Like all the light bulbs and the lamps are all gone. There was one time, whoever stole they only stole one napkin ring. So usually with breakfast bar, we do some sort of kind of like a nice, cute breakfast setup. And so I usually do something very simple with like, you know, plates and the mat, and then also like napkins and napkin rings, because we have these really nice ones. And so there's like 4 seats on the breakfast bar, and whoever stole it, they only wanted one. They only stole one. You know, you just never know how people
I almost imagine like a kid going through, you know, going, ooh, this is pretty. You know, I'm thinking about my girl. It's like, oh, is that a bracelet? Or, you know, but even that, you know, with as far as the knives go, you know, how many times do, you know, little children pick up something that's dangerous and then, you know, it end up being a big issue. You know, if you're saying that there's 100 to 200, this is my first time selling, so that's crazy to me that there's that many people coming through your home. But if there's that many coming through in a 3-hour window, and if it's a family area here, and so I would imagine there'd be a lot of families coming through. It would be so easy for accidents, you know, to happen and things like that. So safety is definitely something that I didn't even think about as far as selling my home, and something that I had to start really considering, you know, after I've listened to your podcast and all of your advice, because it really does, it matters a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it is. So that's why I think it's really important to take those factors into consideration as well. Because you just never know. Your home is once it's open house, it literally is open to strangers that you don't know. And most of the people are very nice. They're very respectful of your home. But I have had, I have had stuff damaged, for example. Like you said, kids go through, they're bored. The parents are discussing something serious with the real estate agent. I've had like stuff where like kids just stick bubble gum, you know, on bedspread, that kind of thing.
Oh, gosh.
Because they're bored, so there's nothing to do. And so I just think that, like, you just want to be able to protect yourself. We had a homeowner where they had this collection of bottle openers, like, that you collected. Like, bottle openers are very rare, and it's like this prized collection in his home. And we had advised him to take it out, and he was unwilling to do it because there were a lot. Like, he had a specific room just for it. For whatever reason, he couldn't get it out. And so I was just really like, you know, I really, really advise you to put this away, because it's such a small thing, people can nick it. Or a child could be playing with it, and you never know what's going to happen. He's like, well, this neighborhood's very safe. It's fine. And after our first open house, he called me. He's like, you're right. There were a few that were missing at the end of the open house.
Oh.
So I don't want to say these things to bum people out, but I just want to, like, let sellers be aware that there are potential situations that can happen. Most of the time it doesn't. But if you
you just have to think it all the way through. You know, it's just, there's so much more to it than you think that there is. You know, we were originally going, okay, we're going to list the home, and once I really started seriously thinking about all the details. There's so much to consider. There's so much on so many different ends as well, and there was one podcast I listened to. I can't remember if it was yours or if it was a real estate podcast. A real estate agent said that one of her tricks was that she would always bring a basket of some sort of toys for the kids during an open house so that it would keep them happy and entertained while the open house was going on. You win the kids over, you win the family over kind of a thing. But it really just kept them in one area a little bit easier. And that was a tip that she had shared that I thought was a good one.
That's a very cool tip, actually, because I think that on that show, $1 Million Listings, I think Frederick had, was one of the storyline, whatever, but he had his husband, entertain the kids while he was doing an open house. Mm-hmm. I think it is true. If the kids feel happy in his home, their parents will more likely to say yes. And actually, it's funny because this agent I just interviewed, Emily, she was the one who convinced, at age 16, she was the one who convinced her parents to buy this other home when they were moving. So, so I think there are a lot of things that, kids have power over that we kind of don't aware, as adults. So, yeah. That
was one of the things when I finally did get that find a stager here in town and had her just do a walkthrough with me. That was one of the things that she mentioned because, like I said, I have 3 girls. So there's a lot of glittery, all sorts of girly things around the house, which I knew I had to tone down a little bit. I didn't have any crazy hot pink rooms or anything like that. All of our rooms had neutral colors, but, I did have a lot of color in the rooms, whether it's the bedspread or the drapes or, just the different decorative items around the house. And that was one of the things that she mentioned, just try to tone down the color. I had a colorful rug in one of my daughter's rooms. She said just remove that just so that it's a little bit more low-key because, imagine a 15-year-old boy coming into this room. He's going to look at that view and say, oh, that room overlooks the view, but I don't want this room, because he's going to be, a lot of times, you just get a little bit turned off by, how if it's a girly room, the little boy's not gonna want it, so you have to make every room a little bit more neutral so that it doesn't matter who it is coming through, they're going to want that room, and there isn't that one negative comment, and so I thought the rooms were pretty toned down as the way that I had it, but she did point out a few of the just remove those pink flowers and put white ones or, different things like that, which made a difference. Once I saw it, my favorite tip of yours, Cindy, that I will use this tip forever, is going through, I think it was, you even have it in your 30-day challenge where right towards the end, when you're doing your final walkthrough, make sure you take your iPhone or whatever and take a photo of each of your rooms. See how it photographs, and when you said that, it was like, of course. I'm an artist, I paint. And that's one of the things I do with my paintings every single time. Once you get to I do oil paint, so it dries really slowly. So every painting that I do takes a long time. And there's always a point where you've just stared at it for so many hours that something's not right, but you can't quite pick out what it is anymore because you've just looked at it for so long. And so I'll, take a photo of it and almost always see exactly what it is that I needed to do. Or I'll take it into a mirror, hold it in the mirror and see it flipped, see what the image looks like, through the reflection of the mirror. And that changes the whole perspective of the painting, and you can pick out things you wouldn't have seen normally because your eye is so trained to seeing it that one way. And so I've just done this my whole life, and you said to do that, with each room, and it was like, oh my gosh, of course, that just makes too much sense, And I went through all of my rooms and took a photo of them, and it blew my mind how it photographed versus how it felt when you're in the room. That was when I said I felt like I had to restage my home so many times. I basically had to restage it at that point because, there's certain things where I'm going, I always thought this looked great, but it looks so cluttered here now on the photo, and it did, wasn't hard to remove those certain things, but it made night and day difference for me when I saw it on a photo versus how it felt like in the room, and I even had, I was really excited about how things were going. So my husband and father-in-law was like, look at this. You see how this room, it feels great, but look at how it photographed. Isn't it amazing how you have to change even those tiny little details and what a difference it makes, and they're so on board now with everything that I've done, but, they're like, wow, you're right. That doesn't look very good on the photo. Like, remove the ottoman, remove this, remove that,
That's really cool to hear. Yeah. I think that's actually from just as a stager, I shoot a lot of my own portfolio photo. And one of the things that why I got so into photography too was that it really frustrated me is that the way I stage it and the way it's photographed will look and feel very differently. So then I start learning how to photograph and also how to stage so that like the two will be much closer together. Because I think it's also really, I think perspective is one important thing because when you're in it all the time, you don't see the bird's eye view. And that's why I think it's important to take a photo after you stage it to kind of get a sense of how it might be presented on the market.
It's a huge tool to use.
That's also one of the tricks that I use when sellers refuse to paint. A lot of times sellers have very customized colors in their room. Like I have had
really dark ones.
I've seen a lot of dining rooms with like these, like red walls. And those don't photograph very well at all, especially with reflection of the light. And so I usually take those photos and show it to the sellers and make them understand, like, 90% of people look at homes online now. So the photograph is very important. And this is how your house is going to photograph if you don't stage it. And then usually at that point, they're like, okay, we're going to go with staging and repainting.
Yeah, once you see it in your hand, that photo of that room that you like so much, you really can't deny it. Yeah, it's too obvious when you see it. And what a shame it would be to have to hire, I don't know how everybody else does it. I went and found my own real estate photographer because I was very specific about how I wanted the type of quality that I wanted in my photographs. And so, I paid for that, and it's worth every penny to me, because you've said many times in your shows that it's really your second showing. When people come see your house, it's the second time they're seeing it because they're seeing it online first. Those photos matter a lot. And so what a shame it would be to have to spend the money on a real estate photographer, have them do the best that they can with the space. And then you look at the final photos going, oh, my gosh, that doesn't actually look very good. Why didn't I paint that wall? Or why didn't I remove that huge china cabinet, that looks fine in person, but it looks so cluttered in that, space? Or, there's a million examples. And then you're just kind of stuck with those, or you have to pay for them to come back, and that's a shame to have to do that. Which is why the iPhone tips or the photo tip, just go through each room and each space. That it's golden to me.
Yeah, and especially everyone has a smartphone, or almost everyone, or digital camera. I mean, it's very easy tool to use. So people can kind of get it. So when you're doing your own staging, then you can kind of gauge and see. And I think because you have the arts background, so you get it. And so a lot of sellers, they don't have the arts background, for example. They don't necessarily understand. But if they see the visual of it, then they can kind of understand, like, why is it so important that we talk about declutter all the time in staging? Even though I hate the word declutter because I feel like it's, I think a lot of conversation when people talk about staging is always only about cleaning and decluttering. But it's actually so much more than that, and there's a lot more details and a lot more nuances that go into it. So I'm really happy that, our podcast and our course has been able to give you really valuable information that you can apply on selling your homes. I think that's actually it's been
invaluable. It really is. Like, I can't believe that you just do this for everybody.
I really appreciate that, because I think as an educator, an advocate for home staging, it's something that it's really important. It's like really important feedback to hear, because you put out these contents, and most of the time you only hear back when people have bad things to say. And sorry, my alarm. It's not necessarily like, very rarely we get very positive feedback. So I really, really appreciate you giving me the feedback and also come on the show today to share your experience.
Oh, God. Like I said in the beginning, I feel like you've helped me so much. So, anything for you because really, I wouldn't have had these types of resources, at my disposal. I have learned just so much, and I still can't believe that's all been free for me. Like, I've just been listening to I got your course and everything, but I've just been listening to your podcast and been able to get this whole education. I want to send some sort of payment. I feel like I just got all this and I didn't even pay for it. It almost doesn't seem fair. So I so appreciate you doing this and the service that you provide for all of us.
I really appreciate that. And actually, I really enjoy podcasting. And podcasting actually, I feel like changed my life a little bit. Well, a lot actually, because I realized how much I actually like teaching and like interviewing other stagers and other real estate professionals. And that also helped me to make the decision of getting out of the one-on-one service. Because I think impact-wise, I make much a greater impact. Having stuck with doing staging locally in the Bay Area, I would never be able to help you, who lives in Georgia, for example.
We really do live as far apart as you can. You're up north over there in San Francisco. I'm down here in the south on the East Coast. It's so far, and you've just made such a huge difference, for our home. Just by everything that you, all the interviews, your course, everything. It's been so helpful, and yes, it wouldn't have happened if you hadn't been podcasting. So I'm so grateful for you.
No, thank you. So to end this interview, I just want to ask you, what is the one tip you will give to other homeowners who are going to stage your house themselves?
Definitely don't give up. There was something that you said in one of your previous episodes, and actually it was in your course, that you said, make sure that you get, constructive criticism that's actually constructive, and that you don't just have somebody that comes in and says, oh, I love everything, or somebody that comes in and picks it all apart, that to have somebody that's going to help, and I think that don't give up and make sure that if everybody just kind of puts their heart and mind into it, make sure that you're really getting feedback from the right places. Your Facebook group was such a help there too. I was able to post some photos and have all of these wonderful other people with great tips, give me their suggestions and everything, people that actually know what it's supposed to look like, gave me feedback, but really just don't give up. If there's something that you really want to do, if you really want to, present your home or in a certain way, or find that specific kind of buyer, or sell it for, that specific price, even if there's people telling you, sorry, you're not going to do it, just keep pushing forward. There's always a way. There always is. Even in this case, I came back and got the best appraiser in our area to come and give me his feedback. It was enough, like I said earlier, where the bank threw out the other one and used his, which I wasn't even expecting. I really just wanted his guidance on, okay, am I wasting my time here or not? But with that bump in the value and just doing the research, I didn't want to give up. I didn't want to just settle for where we were sitting, 2.5 months ago. And in the market research and everything, there was lots of tips from, the real estate market that I picked up. And one of the things that, we were thinking about doing was removing all of the technology in our home, selling it as a home without the technology. I found a tip on a different real estate podcast that said, you can offer seller financing, for the house. And that immediately connected the dots with me with, okay, we'll sell the house for this, and then we can seller finance the technology And because we live where we live, you know, master's rentals and everything, I mean, they could pay off the technology in 4 years, you know, or less, you know, depending on what level of technology they want. You know, and that's something that I've talked to many real estate agents in this area, and nobody had that idea, but it was something that I was able to learn from by doing research and listening to these brilliant people and doing a lot of reading and everything, and that right there, with the bump in the home value and then with the seller financing option of the technology, I mean, we might be exactly where we wanted to be when we started out. I mean, I'm not sure how it's going to go, but really, like, there's always an answer, and I think that if you really want, you know, it sounds so cliche, but if you really believe in it, then you can do anything. Anything is possible. But, I mean, it really is just the story of us and our house.
That's really great. Thank you so much for being on the show again. I can't say enough, like, thank you, especially being able to share about your story and your daughter. And I think that it's really amazing and brave of you. And I can't wait to hear how it all goes. You've done so much work. I'm sure it'll be great.
Definitely. I hope we find somebody that's going to love it. That really is the end goal here. So
you will. Stay positive. The real estate agent really needs to sell that master's rental fee, because that is amazing.
Yes. I mean, it can make up for a lot of, you know, the price variations and everything when you think about how that just adds it adds an income. Basically.
Yeah, it basically covers your property tax and more.
Oh, sure. Oh, yes, definitely. Yeah. I mean, there's certain houses here when they rent, you know, that for that substantial amount, they don't even pay a mortgage, because that master's fee that they get every year, it covers their mortgage for the year. So, I mean, there's just so many ways to look at it, but it's such a help, and it keeps your house in tip-top shape too. I mean, you really do have to keep it really nicely, you know, organized and put together and everything every year, you know, and spring cleaning to the nines every year. So it's good all the way around.
So is it like a master's competition? It's like them reaching out to you guys to rent a house out, or it's like a listing that they provide that you just sign up for? How does that work?
There's a lot of ways of doing it. The tournament's going on, so you have, of course, all the people that are playing and everything that, you know, come in, but then everybody else that comes to watch the tournament. And so a lot of people will list their house on, like, different listing websites, and they'll list on all of them, you know, and then whoever's, you know, interested, if it's the right amount of rooms for the right amount of price or whatever, you'll just get calls. Other people will list their homes to specific families that, you know, they did it once and they just always want to go back to that same home every year, kind of a thing. We had that for a little bit. We had a professional golfer stay at our house, and they loved it, and they contacted us and said, we just want to. It was one of those perfect situations. They had children the same age as ours and everything. So they, you know, we didn't have to remove all the cribs and all the kids stuff. Like they wanted all of it, high chairs and everything. And so and they would grow the same age. You know, they would always need the same stuff that we have when they come to visit and stuff. So they've come and consistently rented with us.
And where do you guys go during this time?
There's years that we went to Disney World and spent a week there. I have family in California, and so a lot of times we'll go there for the week. And, you know, there's been times where I've gone to California and my husband still had to work, so he, you know, got a hotel and stayed and worked and everything. But it's a great vacation, you know, and for a lot of people it's a paid vacation, and that's a lot of what they get is, you know, a standard rental, you know, in certain areas is just $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, and that's great for a fantastic time at Disney World or to pay whatever you need to pay off or whatever. But for these larger homes and everything, it could pay your mortgage for the year. So it really depends on the situation. But some people's homes are sought after, so they get there's people will contact themselves and say, you know, have you committed to anybody yet? Can we can we commit with you? You know, can we already, we had a call just the week after Masters asking to book our home for next year. You know, it's a year in advance, so they wanted to nail it down. So I think everybody's experience is a little bit different.
That's pretty cool, though. It's almost like a pocket listing. You don't have to go through an agency.
Yeah. Do you have any, since I have you on the line and everything, do you have any experience with pocket listing, private listings or anything? I mean, I haven't seen it done around. It's something I'd like to try doing off the start, but I don't really know. It's pretty common here, I think, in California. And I think that it has, I think when you're in a high-end market, which your home sounds like it is, that it's more effective than having everybody just come through. Especially, I think also because in your particular neighborhood, it sounds like there's a huge range in terms of possible listing price. So a lot of times you might just get people who are just really price shopping. They just want to see what, you know, homes in your price range looks like. To be honest, that I think it's a great idea for you guys to just kind of reach out, or your realtor to reach out to the community and just say that, hey, we have this, you know, new listing coming on. It's not on the market yet. Would you like to bring your buyers and come by for a private showing? I think for a home of your caliber, that's probably the best bet before you even go on the market. This way, I don't know, I think people feel more special. And also higher end market, they're used to that kind of thing. They don't want to be in a public open house. But, you know, that's California. I don't know how it is in your... I know, that's what I've been hearing about this, and it's all in different areas, but nothing here, you know. So I'm not quite sure how it's going to pan out here or if it's going to just be unusual, you know. But either way, I think for, you know, minimizing the traffic, at least seeing if we can attempt that. Can we get this sold with minimizing the traffic without having, you know, a whole bunch of people in here, everybody trying to test the technology? And I mean, once you do that, then lots of people using, you know, one person using the remote and another person using the touch screen at the same time. It's not going to showcase the technology very well because it's going to get confused on which command to listen to, you know? Exactly. So and I think that's the advantage of having a private showing. But I think also, like, you know, selling is about timing. So I want to make sure, like, this is something you talk to your realtor about. Because I think in the Bay Area, most houses sell within 30 days. Oftentimes, you know, especially market's really crazy now. The first weekend, offers in, and it's done. And it's kind of interesting because I just interviewed Emily, who's a real estate agent here in the Bay Area, and she says it's a very specific strategy in our area where people are going to they purposely price the house low to create a bidding war. But in your market, I don't know how that will go, especially there's such a wide range just within your neighborhood. And there's no comparable homes. That's why it makes it more complicated and make it more tricky. So so that's why I've kind of stepped off of that side of it, going, okay, there's just too much to know and too much experience that is required for those types of decisions and pricing and everything. But I can come up with a staging part. I can present a pretty package and come up with a marketing strategy. But as far as the rest of it, like, let the professionals do, you know, what they do best. And so I'm curious to see what price they're going to come up with tonight. Yeah, and also with your father-in-law being such a, you know, like a credible resource in the community, I think he can probably get a lot of people to show up for your private showing. I hope so. He does. He does have this reputation. Everything that I've learned about him, you know, I knew that he has done great things, but with doing all this research, it's like, wow, I knew you were great. I didn't know you were that great. So whatever. And in real estate, a lot of time it is a numbers game. You need a certain number of people to see it, to, you know, get to the tipping point kind of thing. But if it shows really well, I think you will remove a lot of obstacles for you. Because I think the thing is that I think the major thing for a buyer's agent is that they want to
they want to have a house that shows really well, because then it makes it easier for them to sell the house. And since your house already shows very well at this point, because I saw your photos, they look really fantastic. I mean, I've seen some really bad do-it-yourself staging. They're not my students, by the way, but I've seen some really bad work, because people, like, a lot of times sellers know they need to stage, but they don't understand what staging exactly is. And so they miss the mark on a lot of things.
Even photography that, like you were talking about earlier. I remember years ago watching an HGTV TV show about, it was like a competition between, I don't know if they were designers, interior designers or something, but one of the women that was competing had background in real estate photography, and whatever competition they were doing that particular episode, they had to stage the room a certain way, and she just blew everybody out of the park because she knew exactly how things show well for photographs. And it may look awkward. Oftentimes it looks awkward in person to have it set that certain way, but on photographs it looks amazing, and it's just two different ways of staging. And so she blew it out of the park. I remember years ago reading or watching that, and then so when I was looking for a photographer this time around, I was like, it can't just be a photographer. We have plenty of photographers here, but I need somebody that knows just how to set things up for real estate, you know, and just like what you're saying, staging, it's a lot more than we think it is.
It is, and I think that's the right decision, because I think especially most people view homes online. That's also another advantage of technology now, because I think I think that you can also probably, I don't know, maybe out-of-town buyer is not big in your neighborhood, but it certainly is a possibility as well, especially people can view houses online nowadays.
Right.
So I think it's something that your realtor, you know, in terms of marketing strategy, you really want to make sure you have a realtor who has a really good plan heading into it. I don't know if you finalized your realtor yet, but if you're still in the interviewing process, or even still, I mean, you're early on stage, just to make sure like you get a really solid, like this person needs to have a really solid idea in terms of how to market your property, because it sounds like it is a one-of-a-kind property. That's why there's no comp anywhere.
Right.
There are challenges because of that, but also at the same time is that you have a very beautiful, unique property, and you have done all this work to really improve how well it shows. That itself will boost your resale value as well. So there's a lot of factors. So you just need to make sure you have the best realtor that's going to be able to represent your interest in that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Yes. I so appreciate all of your feedback and suggestions and everything. It literally, I hang on to all of your words and kind of go forward with it, because it's everything that, you know, you've said so far that has been, you know, whether in your episodes or your course and everything. I mean, I've just gone full force on it, and it's just come back, you know, so much better in areas I didn't even realize needed to be better. So it's been so helpful. Thank you.
So that's it for today's show. Thank you so much for listening. If you haven't left a review on iTunes, please do so. It's really going to help others to find our show. If you have any questions, feedback, or suggestions, you can comment on the show notes or join our private Facebook group. Just search for The Home Staging Show on Facebook. You can find the show notes by going to www.stagemore.com/podcast. That's it. Have a fantastic week and happy staging.